What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Episode 19 here at OKnowsSports. Today we got a special guest, Austin BetterBettor on Twitter. We're talking a little college hoops. We're doing a midseason preview, kind of jumping into March Madness and conference tournaments coming up here in a month. Austin, how you doing today, brother?
Doing good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. No complaints. We got another decent slate tonight. Great slate this weekend. You got a game that you're looking forward to most this weekend?
Obviously Auburn, Alabama's
Yeah.
probably the top of everyone's board, but easy pick. But to me, it's the best game of the season. So
I was saying that to my roommate. It's one of those that's just like, I mean, I have no idea. I haven't looked at the line or anything, but man, that's gonna be a real test.
It's gonna be.
Bama's
sweet.
got
I haven't
about
looked either.
Yeah, Bama's got about 8 guys that can score 20 points a game, and Auburn's got Janai Broome and Pettiford. So that's going to be pretty sweet. Do you think, speaking of that game, do you think, obviously those are the 1 and 2, who do you think currently is the best team in college hoops? Do you think it's at Auburn or Alabama, or do you think it's Duke? Who are you thinking?
I like Bama. I think
Okay.
I think like ceiling wise, like if everybody played to their ceiling, like clicking on all cylinders, I think Bama's the best. Just because it's kind of weird. This year they're not winning by shooting the lights out like they did last year because they were just terrible defensively and we, kind of got exposed sometimes.
Yeah.
And they just literally shot their way to the Final Four. This year, if you look at some of the metrics, they don't really shoot that well. At least from beyond the arc, I think they're under like 40 or 38%, something like that, which is what they like. I think they were top 5 last year.
Yeah.
Looking right now.
Well, yeah, and I know they still have the number 1 offense points per game wise, and that's not a surprise with the transfers they brought in. But
exactly, and that's what I was getting at. It's like now it's like, okay, so they're shooting 38%, still pretty good, but last year is like they couldn't really get the ball inside. They're obviously athletic as hell, but this year I feel like they're beating you in different ways. Like inside, I feel like they're dominant, at least on a couple of metrics I'm looking at. They're second in the nation in points in the paint and stuff. Like it feels like a different team. Obviously they play fast. I just clicking on all cylinders. I think Bama's ceiling is the highest because they have that 3-point edge. When they get hot, they get hot. Like you said, they have 3-4 guys that can drop 20 on you. So
and Mark Sears handling the ball is just crazy.
He's good, and then Nelson's a matchup nightmare.
Oh yeah.
And one thing I really love, I always fall in love with teams who do this, but teams who just crash the offensive glass, just absolute pests. That you just like. Especially the team who can shoot or can get hot shooting, it's a nightmare. You just get possession after possession after possession. It wears you down.
And you're going to score after a while.
To me, they're like Texas A&M on steroids, because they can actually make shots.
Yeah, A&M, they might shoot 38% from the field, let alone from 3. Yeah, I agree with that. And I've been a Bama guy all year. Like I think, like you said, like their offensive ceiling's ridiculous, but I don't know, man. I think my favorite team, or not my favorite, I actually am not a fan of theirs, but I think Duke, when they're playing their best, is just like, I think personally and we'll talk about this more as we talk about some Cinderella potential teams, but I think one of the most important things going into the tournament is having lottery pick talent and also having 4th and 5th years that have been there before. And I think Duke is one of the few teams that even gives Alabama a run for their money, obviously with the transfers they brought in with like Sion James. And also I think Malawach is super underrated on that team defensively. But personally, my pick's Duke, but I'd say Bama's my my 1B and Duke's my 1A. I think both of them are a little better than Auburn. I guess we'll see this weekend with Bama, but
I can't argue that. They're obviously sick. I actually was on Clemson this last Saturday, which
sharp.
It was fun at the end. Beginning, I was like, why did I do this? They were down like 10 quick. I was like, well, that was dumb. But
and they can get out of the gates quick.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, they're obviously top to bottom, probably the most complete roster. So the one thing I worry about is the freshman talent. in the tournament kind of could break down, but it does help that they have Proctor back, a couple other older guys handling the ball. Usually, like, the freshman ball handlers scare me more than the big guys because obviously they ball more. But so I trust Proctor to, at least in the tournament, to kind of handle those high pressure situations. But
yeah, they'll be a 1 seed for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So talking a little bit, obviously you and I are both, for the listeners that don't know, mid-major guys, and we kind of just cover the whole college basketball scope. Talking about some of the best teams in the country like Bama and Duke. Now give me everyone each year I feel like falls in love, whether it's like McNeese State last year or whether it's Samford last year, falls in love with a mid-major that becomes, I guess, trendy is the right word, right before the tournament. And they're like, oh, this 12 is going to beat this 5 seed. I want to hear a few of your teams that are like, this team is not as good as everyone thinks they are. And then I'll give my takes as well.
Sure. So this first one is obviously they have to make the tournament just because it's one of those one bid leagues. But if they do, they're currently projected I think at 13.
Okay.
But it was what team you said, Samford. They make the tournament more oftentimes than not. I think they're in the Southern Conference. It's actually a pretty good conference.
It is a good conference, yeah.
They got some grinders over there, and the style of play that they use is why, usually a fit for an upset. Like they play fast and they shoot a ton of threes, which is if you catch them on a good day, obviously if anyone's making threes, you're gonna lose. But this year just feels a little different. I mean, if they do make it, people, like I said, the college basketball casuals are just gonna be like, oh, I know that name, play it, trendy upset. But their strength of schedule is terrible. They didn't really play anybody in the non-conference, and they turned the ball over too much for me. There's 364 teams in college basketball, and they rank 292nd in turnover rate. It's just way too much.
That's not going to fly in the tournament against the big
when they play fast, it's just a nightmare. When these smaller schools play these larger high majors and who also play fast, it's usually a bloodbath. They rebound fairly well on the offensive glass, but if they play a team like a Bama or something like that, like I said, there's 364 teams in Division I basketball, and defensive rebounding rate, they're 339th. So
that's a good nugget. Yeah, that's no good.
They could be run out the gym. So
that's
when, if they do make it, I think it's primed for a huge, literally a 30-point loss, depending on who they draw. That's the other thing with these finding Cinderellas. It's pretty much all matchup or draw dependent. If they get a good, obviously. So it is what it is. But one thing, like I said, they do shoot the three well. So that's it's a dangerous game. But I'm looking to fade them pretty heavily if they do make it.
I think they're probably definitely the favorite as of right now. And then I'm gonna pull one up that I'm a little biased here, but I think High Point out of the Big South. I shouldn't say a little. I'm very biased here, but they are another team that is like Samford, where they kind of pour it in and they score 85 points a game, roughly around there. Don't know the exact number, but I watch a lot of their games personally. I think they'd be a really unique Cinderella story that has a chance of beating a few teams, but very similarly to Samford, they are if they're cold, they're going to get run out of the gym. I don't know exactly what their defensive efficiency rate is. Other than their 7-foot center, no one on the team can really defend. And I'd be interested to see what the exact efficiency rate is. But I can tell you this, the last 2 years out of the Big South has been UNC Asheville and then Longwood. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure both played against Houston and they both lost by 30 plus. So I'm hoping that if High Point gets in this year, they don't run into a buzzsaw like Houston. But I do think with these kind of mid-major teams, for the common ball knowledge knower of college basketball, it's easy to fall in love with points per game. But I will advise any listener out there, look at the opponents' points per game as well, and the defensive efficiency and the numbers into it, or at least here at OKnowsSports and at BetterBettor, we'll look into it for you and let you know who you should be taking. I guess that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at High Point right now. They are actually a top 100 team, according to some metrics, but they a little less than middle of the pack defensively. 243 out of 364.
Yeah.
So
okay,
not great, not bad.
And they're nasty offensively. They're like
top 30.
Yeah, they're like a scaled back Bama. We'll say that, and that's the nice way to put it, I guess.
Hey man,
but talking a little more, yeah, they definitely could fill it up. I think they're like top 5 in the country in a few different offensive categories. Talking a little more about mid-majors, do you have one player that you think stands out in mid-major basketball that is like, wow, I'm kind of shocked this guy hasn't transferred, or maybe he's got a chance to play pro hoops?
Yes. Kid from Yale, John Poulikitis. Is an absolute dog. I don't know if you they're just buried in the Ivy, and because they only play Friday and Saturday on ESPN Plus. And I'm surprised he didn't transfer like Danny Wolf, but I don't know if you remember the lefty kid literally raining from anywhere on the court against Auburn.
Yeah.
Like he literally could not miss.
I remember that.
They played on ESPN 2 like 3 weeks ago, and it was on, and I was just at home and I flicked it on. And he was out there doing the same exact thing. He's top 10 in the country in points per game. He averages like 21 a night. The kid is just ridiculous. The shot making ability is like it. He takes horrible shots, but he makes a lot of them. Step back, like just there's no motion to the flow. Like he's just a good shot maker. And like I watched him again. I was like, this is exactly what I saw in the tournament last year. And I looked into it because I remember I recognized the name, and I looked at the stats, and I was like, yeah, he's doing the exact same thing as he did last year. Top 10 in points per game. Offense runs through him. He shoots like 40% from 3. Nasty lefty. He's like 6'7" forward. He's really good. So
I'd like to see him at the next level, because I'm sure they'll make a few corrections to that poor shot choice at the next level. But I think a guy like that, like a 6'7" wing, has a chance to actually play in the league. It's because those are the guys, really the only mid-major guys that get a true shot.
For sure.
Because the bigs are usually a little slow, and the guards are usually a little small. I got a guy for you. I don't know if you've watched much of UAB this year. They're pretty bad. They're not great. I think they're right around middle of the pack in their conference. I think they're like 15-10 record-wise. But this is a guy that I am shocked, just like you said about the Yale kid, that he didn't transfer. I got to read this name off because I'm not great with pronunciation.
I think I know who it is.
You know who? Yeah. Yaxel Lendeborg. Yeah.
Beast.
So for the listeners out there that I assume have never watched the UAB Dragons play basketball, he averages 18.5 a game, 10.5 rebounds a game, 4.5 assists a game, a block a game, and almost a steal a game. He is literally the whole team on UAB. I watched him play last night. It kind of sparked my mind of like, this kid is ridiculous, and he should be playing high major. I think he had like 27 and 13 last night. He shoots well from the free throw line. He shoots like top 30 in the country in field goal percentage. He's really good. I hope to see him either transfer out for his 5th year into a high major, whether it's like a team like Alabama or somebody where he could run, or even declare and go undrafted and sign on to some G League team and see him ball out. Because either way, I'd like to see him at the next level. You know, it's one of those guys.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of box scores, and I was almost on UAB myself last night.
Yeah, good thing you weren't. I was, and it's no good. It was no good.
They can't play defense, but yeah, he's the whole team. Like he literally is. He walks into the gym and he gets a double. Like he's really good.
That's about what he is. Okay, so that's a lot of mid-major talk, and I'm sure some of the listeners don't even know half the people we're talking about. But talking a little bit more mainstream, do you have a team that has shocked you a little bit this season in the Power 5 that maybe going into the year you were like, yeah, this team's good. We'll see where they go, and they've actually like excelled your expectations a little bit?
I thought Ohio State coming in the year was interesting. I like their coach. He stepped in when Holtman got fired last year, and they kind of were buzzing a little bit and like almost made a bubble push.
Yeah.
They have a couple of interesting guys on there. I thought they were just going to be kind of like a middle of the pack, maybe fringe bubble team, but they're actually playing pretty well. I don't know if you watched a couple Sundays ago. They were up at Illinois late by like 10, and then ended up not even covering like 6.5 in the second half. They just literally fell apart. But they shoot the three well, and they're just kind of stingy. It's one of those Big Ten teams that you just don't really want to see because they can.
Yeah.
Anybody in the Big Ten can beat anyone on any given night, but they kind of like I said, I didn't really think of anything of them coming into the season. They defend the three pretty well, so I don't know. They're just stingy. They don't really go away. So that was a team that I was kind of shocked by. Because I didn't really have any expectations for them coming into the season.
Yeah, and like you said, I just looked it up here. They're 6-7 in conference, which in the way the Big Ten's shaping out, I mean, they have a lot of ranked teams, obviously. So 6-7 in a strong Big Ten's pretty good. And I had kind of a similar one in another strong conference, the SEC, Mizzou. So I thought they were like pretty mid. I didn't think they were great. I actually, pretty funny, I bet a guy in my office that they would not finish top 6 in the SEC. Currently, my money's not looking great because I think they're right in that mix to finish in the top 5, top 4. But I think they're similar to Ohio State, where it's like they have a few guys that have been around the block. They're sophomore, junior, seniors that are impactful players on their team. Like perfect examples like Mark Mitchell and Tamar Bates over at Mizzou. And I'm trying to think of the guard's name at Ohio State.
Bruce Thornton.
Yes, Bruce Thornton, where those are the type of guys that you need to have to be a stingy team that is tough to beat late in games because they've been there before. So I think Ohio State's a perfect example of that. Mizzou is a perfect example of that. Mizzou has really exceeded because pretty sure they're preseason ranked like 9th or 10th in the SEC. They're probably going to finish in the top 5 in the best conference that we've seen in a while in college basketball. So I definitely think those are. I wasn't expecting Ohio State, but I like that take a lot because I agree. Like especially looking at betting lines every night. Like say you got a Purdue on the road against Ohio State, I'm staying off Purdue that night because I don't really want to take anyone against Ohio State the way that they play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a freshman too who's like a psycho guard. He's a bulldog. His name's John Mobley Jr. I watch him play. He's just absolutely reckless, but he sticks his nose everywhere, and he's a pest. He does not go away. I watched him play a few games because I bet him early in the season in some non-con games, and they were just blowing teams out. I was like, whoa. I was like, I have not seen Ohio State put up because that last year they were horrible. And this year in the non-con, they were putting up like 104, 102, 91. Like I was like, holy hell, who is on this team? And I just started watching a couple of their games, and like they fly around the gym, man. They're athletic as hell. They're good. I think right now they're currently slated as in the tournament. I'm not sure, but I would like to see them in there. They got a 3 really good guards, which are fun. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's easy to rally around when the tournament comes around. Talking a little bit about like teams that you want to rally around in the tournament. You give me 1 or 2 teams that are probably going to make it, are either on the bubble or are basically a guaranteed in that you think you're going to take them all the way betting wise, and you think have a chance to make like a deep Elite 8, Sweet 16, Final Four run that maybe people aren't expecting. So like not an Alabama, not a Duke, but somebody maybe a little on the outskirts looking in.
Yeah, so I'll give you one cupcake and one that's a little more on the outskirts. I'll probably like a 6 or 7 seed.
I like that.
One of them's biased. Gators. They just keep winning no matter who is playing. It's insane. Even Elijah Martin was out again yesterday at Mississippi State, and Condon got hurt in like the first 2 minutes. So they're down 2 starters at Mississippi State. And they just obviously beat Auburn at Auburn with no Elijah Martin. And they just keep winning. I don't know. As a Florida fan, I didn't really have a lot of expectations coming into the year. They're like 60-1. I took a flyer on them. Did not expect any of this. I love Walter Clayton, but
he's
Todd
so
Gilman,
good.
Walter Clayton. I got a biased take because I think Braden Smith is better, but I think Walter Clayton, heart of hearts, best point guard in the country. He is unbelievable. Can literally shoot from anywhere, and they got depth inside. Like I said, they just had that Hawk kid come off the bench and damn near put up a triple-double last night at Mississippi State. I don't know. They just keep winning. They just keep impressing me. So I honestly think they have a legit chance to win because everyone's talking about Alabama, obviously, Auburn, Duke, blah, blah, blah. Florida just keeps winning. That's it. Yep. They've beaten 2 number 1 teams this year. At home against Tennessee when they were number 1, they beat them by 30. Then they just won at Auburn. So
they got a hell of a resume.
Yeah, they do.
And I think Walter Clayton, it's going to be a tight race between him and Sears and Hubbard for the first team All SEC because I mean those are 3 of the best guards in the whole country, and I'll be anxious to see who takes that first team All SEC guard spot. I think they'll probably be a little biased to Sears, but Walter Clayton's awesome. So let me hear your 6 or 7 or 8 seed that you're thinking could make a deep run.
Yeah, they burned me last year because I had this exact take. And I fell in love with the trio of guards that they had, and one of them stayed. But this year they grade out better metrically than they did last year, which is pretty hard to believe. But I think New Mexico is prime.
Really?
Yes, I love them.
That was the one. That was the team who got bodied by PJ Hall and Clemson.
Oh
right?
yeah, they got thumped.
Yes.
And I was all over them. I fell in love with the trio of guards they had. It was Jamal Mashburn, Donovan Dent, who stayed, and then one other kid. I forgot his name. So this year, they play the same style, super fast, really physical inside, rebound really well. This year, they're just way better defensively. And I feel like they returned, like I said, Donovan Dent, who's probably going to be the Mountain West Player of the Year. He's obviously sick, and like I said, last year they burned me because I in one bracket I think I had him in the Final Four. It was too aggressive, but I fell in love with the trio of guards. Like I said, one thing I pay attention to a ton in terms is turnover margin, and they get out in transition and try and turn you over, kind of like Marquette, and just run you off the gym. And they can do that with a guy like Dent leading the point. He's a top 25 guy in points per game. He's 20 a night. So another thing is experience. So 4 out of the 5 guys this year are upperclassmen. I think 3 of them were starters last year. So they kind of got that experience last year. So, and I'm going to draw a line in the sand. I'm not going to let the Mountain West burn me again this year like I do every year because they always get like 4 or 5 fringy or frisky teams in the tournament, and I always fall in love with every single one of them. But this year, I'm the only one that I actually think is good is New Mexico. I actually think they have a legit chance for a second run.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to rattle off my 2. So, first of all, I like your Florida take a lot. And second, I haven't watched a ton of New Mexico. I'm actually on them tonight, -15. But I think my team that in similar fashion to Florida has not really been talked about enough after their ridiculous win is Texas Tech. Not sure if the viewers or if you, Austin, saw this the other night when they played Houston. Their coach got ejected, and their best player, JT Toppin, got ejected on a ridiculous flagrant 2 call where they treated him like Draymond, and he just did not, that was not intentional. But either way, it was ridiculous. But I think Texas Tech, they have a win at Houston, which if you know anything about college basketball, a win at Houston is ridiculous. And I think just like you said about New Mexico, they have a lot of depth and not only depth, but also depth that are juniors, seniors, and grad students. And they have kind of a three-headed monster with obviously Toppin is kind of the lead dog on that, and he'll probably be a first-round pick. But they also have Hawkins at guard. They have a few other guys that average over 13 a game. Williams, he's also great on Texas Tech. I think they're one of those teams that you don't want to play them in the tournament. And I also think they're going to make some noise in the Big 12 tournament. They'll probably be like a 3 seed, maybe a 2 or a 3 or a 4. And I think they'll probably go pretty far in that. I see them as a 2 or a 3 seed as well in March Madness. And I will definitely have them in my Final Four, if not my final, if not winning a bracket.
Chance McMillan,
what do you?
guy.
Oh yeah. McMillan's their leading scorer, I think.
Yeah, he's good. I love that take. I don't know if this was like a month ago, but I was on them at home against Iowa State, and they should have won that game. They were up like 15 in the second half, and
I remember that one.
There's first of all horrendous beat. Second of all, because Iowa State ran down the court and they tied the game with like 6 seconds left, and they ended up losing by 1 in overtime. But they had Iowa State on the ropes when they were fully healthy with Momcilovic or whatever his name is.
Yeah, that's a good team.
They pieced up Houston at Houston by like 10. So
yeah, they're a good team. They're scary. And then my fringe team, also in the state of Texas, is the Longhorns. I think they're getting beat up in the SEC like bad. They're kind of getting their butts kicked every game. But what I will say about them is, like, I talked about it earlier with Duke. I think the remedy of success in the tournament is having a lottery pick, Trey Johnson, and having depth and good defensive ability, but more so having old guys that are able to kind of control the game a little bit. And that's exactly what Texas has. Like, they have Arthur Kaluma, who plays the 4 for them. He's, I think, a 6th or 7th year. He's been in college forever. And they have great bigs inside. They're super athletic. They're going to be one of those teams that's like, they're probably, if they get in, they'll be on the last 4 in slide that Joe Lunardi posts out. But I think they could, like, I will 100% have a bracket where they'll probably be an 8 or a 9, and I'm going to have them beating the 8 or the 9 and then beating the 1 because I just think they're good.
Yeah, that's a team I feel bad for, the 1 seed who has to see them on the second game if they win. And another one is that I've been seeing projected at 8 or 9 or there's 2 of them actually, Gonzaga and UConn. Whoever has to play those 2 teams, that sucks.
Yes, that sucks. That's man. Did you see what's his name? Not McChesney.
McNeely.
How am I blanking on his name? Yeah, McNeely. 38 ball
bro.
Last night. Like,
he's
that
so good.
is, man, those 2 teams, Gonzaga being a 9 is ridiculous because they're just not, like, if they're having a few few bad losses, and with their strength of schedule, unfortunately, that means an 8 or a 9. But they are good.
I forgot what the stat is, but they've made the Sweet 16 in like 9 straight tournaments. Like,
I mean, Mark Few is one of the best coaches there's ever been. And people can call him a Big West or whatever that conference is, merchant, but like, the truth is, you play who you play, and then he gets to the tournament and beats who he beats every year. Like you said, give me a few guys that are going to play in March Madness that are not necessarily lottery picks like Cooper Flagg or Trey Johnson, that are like, hey, this guy, watch out for him because he may score 30 on your favorite team in March Madness.
So I'll start with some that are going to make the tournament, and then there's one that I really, really like, who is a 1 bid league, but I think they should make it. They're actually on the bubble currently if they don't make it, or if they don't win their conference tournament. But first one is Memphis point guard PJ Haggerty.
He's unreal.
Yeah, he's awesome. He gets to the line, I think. So he's a transfer from Tulsa, and last year Edey led the country in free throw attempts by like 150, which is insane. But he was number 2. Like, he controls the game. He gets to the line a ton, makes a ton of free throws. He's just he fills it up. He's another top 25 guy, averages like 20 a night in, night out. He can drop 20 on you easily. and I think he's only a true sophomore. So he, like I said, transferred from Tulsa. Now he's at Memphis. He's awesome. If you haven't watched Memphis, I would try to watch.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, he can get 20 on you without just at the free throw line. He's just extremely aggressive, which I like. I guess I'll just get to the guy who, I hope they make the tournament because I love this team. His name, I don't know if you've ever watched them on UC San Diego.
I've watched UC San Diego. Yeah,
Tate Jones, dude, is a beast. He is so good. He's like this little white kid from New Zealand. He's like a 6'5" point guard, and he similar to who was I just talking about? PJ Haggerty, the exact same player, but nobody's ever heard of him because he's a grad student. I don't even know if I honestly don't even know if he's ever played Division I basketball until this year. So, but yeah, he is the exact same player, a little bigger, and he this year I think leads the country in free throws per game. I don't know if he leads the country in free throws attempted, but he gets to the line a ton, and he makes a ton of free throws, and he just controls the game. But yeah, Aniwa Tate Jones. If
that's a good one, I like that.
If UC San Diego makes the tournament, which I really hope they do, he's a guy to watch out for, just because his name is insane, and the way he plays is just absolutely crazy. So, just a super aggressive.
I like that. I like that. That's a good mid-major nugget for the listeners for sure. So what you said was interesting because obviously I'm a High Point guy, and Keza Giffa or Jiffa, however you pronounce it,
Beast.
He was third on that list for free throws attempted last year. I think that's one of the most underrated stats because if you're a guy that shoots 90%, those are free points every single game.
Oh, yeah.
That's why Mark Sears is great. That's why Walter Clayton is great. That's why all the best guards, like if you take 8 or 9 free throws a game, you're getting at least 7 or 8 free points. And I think I got a weird one for you. So one, I am going to lobby for them to get a at-large, even if they don't make the tournament from winning the A10. But VCU is very good this year.
Oh, yeah.
And my guy from VCU is Max Scholga. He's had a pretty bad year, considering for him a bad year, 16 a game with like 5 and 5. But he's a guy that transferred from Utah State, shot like 40% from 3 at Utah State because that's all they do there. And he is like, if he gets into the tournament, he'll either go 2 of 16 or like 13 of 17 and score 40. Like, so I'm excited. I hope they get a chance to get in. I think the A10's a little weaker than they've been in the past, but it's still a good enough conference that I think they should have an at-large bid and a obviously conference winner bid as well. But that's my guy. He's not as under the radar as your boy out at UC San Diego, but I do think like he's noticeable. He wears that big like black, like I don't even know, like grip tape, I guess you could call it, on his shooting shoulder, and it's hilarious because like you would think that would affect his shooting motion. Guess it doesn't, but I like his game a lot. He gets to the line a decent amount, and I could see him scoring 30 if he gets into the tournament for sure.
Yeah, I like VCU a lot. I think they're a cakewalk, at least to the A10 final. I hope they get an at-large bid. I don't know if they will, to be honest.
I don't think they respect them enough. I think
it's weird. The A10 might be a one-bid league this year, which is so super weird because Dayton's down. They're not very good. George is actually
George Mason is very good. I think VCU plays George Mason basically for the conference. I think at VCU, I was looking at the odds today, and I was thinking of hammering VCU minus 160 to win the A10 regular season. But I forget if they play them away or home, but I think they do play them one more time, which would be that's a mid-major battle for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, but the A10's down. It's usually VCU's a lock. Dayton's usually the cream of the crop. They're usually no matter what a lock. But yeah, it's weird to see. It's weird to see that conference down because there's a lot of good players there, and it's just
there really is
kind of like name recognition. You know, there's like with Samford every year. There's like they're not. I don't know if they're mid-major quote unquote, but they're like almost a power.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I would consider it power 6. Yeah, exactly what you said.
So, but yeah, there's a ton of cool teams in the A10. But I agree with you. I hope VCU makes it. They play awesome. They're just stingy, and that's another one. And who I don't know, we didn't really touch on just because, at least me personally, they don't fill it up as much as I would like them to. They could beat anybody, just the way they play.
Yeah, I agree. They're pretty good defensively. They're better than they used to be, for sure.
Yeah. And Shulga is, like you said, he's awesome.
And Bama Seal, or if that's how you pronounce his name, that combo is unreal. Hey, I got one for you that I'm actually trying to get him on the pod, and we got something in the works. But so his name is, I watched him the other night on Southeastern Louisiana, and his name is Jacavion Buckley, and he just won Southland Player of the Week. And I watched him the other night when we took him. I think they were +3. He put up 27 on 11 shots and was just like out of his mind. Like, he is such a bucket, and he's one of those guys where if he was 6'4", he'd be in talks of getting drafted. Unfortunately, he's like 5'10", but he gets to the rack like nobody's business. He drives hard. He makes jump shots. He makes threes. And so that's a guy, I don't think they're going to make the tournament. But if they do, they're second in the Southland Conference. So if they do, I will be slamming his over in points in the tournament, because he's one of those guys where it's like he's going to get to the free throw line and he's going to make shots. It's just a matter of if they get blown out or not.
No, I love that. That's Southland is McNeese, right? That's what Southland is.
Yeah.
That's so weird, because like if McNeese makes it, they'll be a 12. But if they get upset, like with whoever, Southeastern Louisiana, they'll be like a 16. So
they will be a 16 and probably have to play Duke and lose by 40. But
murdered.
I
he'll be on the court the whole time. That's actually a good call.
And I hope they get a shot, because I'd like to see someone else. McNeese is the heavy favorite. I think I was checking it like -400, but like, I like the Southland Conference a lot. It has a lot of ridiculous athletes that are a bit under recruited. I know High Point has a Lamar transfer. Lamar is one of those teams that produces guys that just transfer out, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes in mid-major basketball.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you'd be surprised how many high majors started in the Southland. You know?
Oh yeah.
It's just like you said, it's mostly people who are just honestly not big enough to play right out of high school.
Especially the guards.
Yeah, like you'll just get a guy like you said, he's 5'10", but plays like he's a 6'6" guard.
Yes.
He's just fearless.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at, this isn't Southland. I'm blanking on the conference, but Janai Broom probably would have won Player of the Year if he didn't hurt his ankle, but he came from Morehead State. And then you look at Mark Sears, he came from Ohio. Those are true mid-majors. Like, those are not VCU, Dayton. Like, those are mid-major schools. And a lot of the best players in the country are from that mid-major arena, which is cool, because you and I appreciate those kind of players and watch them. And even for Bama, Chris Youngblood played at USF. He was Player of the Year last year in Conference USA, and now he goes and is a hooper for Alabama. No surprise. Yeah,
and another one on their Final Four run with Miami, Norchad O'Meara, he started at Arkansas State or something.
Yep.
So you just never know.
This year.
They're good, man. They play really, really good defense, and I think I saw last they were like a 13 seed or something like that. That's a team I would not want to see. I can't wait to get a bracket, dude. I can't. Dude, I literally cannot wait.
Me too.
Just to look at it.
And a team that I don't think is going to make it because of Memphis, but I've decided they're my number one favorite team to bet on in the country is North Texas.
Oh yeah.
And they literally, I saw it last night when I watched them. They are the number 2 ranked team since 2020 in points allowed, 59 a game. The only one ahead of them is Houston with 58.3. That team, if they get into March Madness, you better watch out, because no one has defensive rotations like them. It's incredible.
Yeah, and they're just the style of play. It's funny that you get used to these these schools that aren't the high majors that kind of switch their style of play based off the talent on the roster, they just play slow as shit. They just slow the game down, and they're like a mini Houston. Like they just, I think every year they're always like literally bottom 5 in Division I basketball, like 360 tempo. Like they just play slow as hell, and they got decent guards. I like North Texas. I got burned on them a couple times betting them this year, but their style of play, especially in mid-major, like they just wear you down over the course of the game. Kind of like Houston, like the exact same thing. Did you see on Monday? Houston or Baylor shot almost 60% from the field at Houston and lost by like 20. I don't know how that's possible.
It's insane because the way Houston plays too is like you just said, it's identical to North Texas. Where like you're after the game, they're probably gassed. Like playing against Houston, you're just like, what did I just like? Did I just run a marathon? Like I just got bodied by their 4 bigs that they rotate in and out the whole game. All of them can defend 4 positions. It's unreal. And Houston is a team that is so fun to bet on because say you have -10 and they're down 10, they could legitimately hold the other team to 3 points in the next 10 minutes.
They'll just say you're not scoring anymore. That's a team, Houston, first round, whatever poor team they draw, that is going to be an auto bet. Like it's going to be like probably around 30. Don't care. They hold like if you look at their non-con schedule every year, it's so funny. I'm gonna look at it right now.
It's like 40 points, 36 points. Like
they even hold like high major teams in the Big 12 to like 36 points. Like it's in their home court. Here, I'm gonna look up their schedule here. But I agree with North Texas. North Texas, they're a fun watch, and like I said, that style of play is just wears on you over the course of the game. Yeah, here's the cupcakes in Houston's to start the year. They play Jackson State home to 40, Hofstra 44, Louisiana 45. Even
40
Butler,
points
50,
is like
51, 42 to Troy, 49 to Toledo, 51 to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. They held Utah in the Big 12 opener to 36. Like in a full game of 36 Division I high major.
Yeah, like that's a probably honestly that's probably what Utah averages for a half. Like I would guess they're right around 70 points a game. That's about average in college basketball. I would guess they score about 72 a game, and they scored half of that against Houston.
You just run into a buzzsaw after the course of like 60 minutes. It just wears on you, dude. Like
it's crazy. Okay, so before we fully end, I want to ask you one time, Austin, for the viewers, I want you to lay one thing on them that they're probably not expecting about college basketball. Obviously, you and I watch a lot of hours. We spend a lot of hours looking at numbers and watching. So I want to hear one thing that going into this conference tournaments and March Madness, what you're thinking that they probably haven't thought of.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously everyone loves to try and find Cinderella. It's what makes March so much fun. But I will say there's a couple things that I've noticed since I've actually like started paying attention to college basketball pretty heavily and gambling on it and paying a ton of attention to it in the last like 5 years. There's like a couple key criteria that key criteria. Number 1, number 2, all this is matchup based. So this could all go out the window depending on the first round draw. But Cinderella, number 1, finding Cinderella, they have to do one of the 2 things well. They either have to rebound, or if they don't rebound well, they have to turn you over a ton. Both is a positive. And another bonus is good 3-point shooting and experience. Bonus if it's guard play. So
I like that.
So, and usually the guard, like the experience / guard play thing is like the quote unquote the guy. Like they need a guy that like when you're getting blitzed, you need somebody who can just go in and get a bucket. And I think this team fits all 4 of those, which is UC San Diego. They don't crash the offensive glass, which I don't love, but they clean it up on the defensive rebounding. Their top 30 in defensive rebound rate, and their top 20 in both turnover margin and keep taking care of the ball. So they don't turn it over a lot, and they turn you over a ton. And all 5 starters are upperclassmen. They shoot 35% from 3, which isn't great, but still top third in college basketball. And the guy I was talking about earlier, Aniwa Tate Jones.
Your boy, yeah.
I hope they make it, dude. I'm telling you, he's awesome. 6'5" point guard from New Zealand, bulldog. Top 20 points a game in the country. Offense goes through him. He's like we talked about earlier, very similar play to like Josh Hubbard style. And PJ Haggerty gets the line a ton. Offense goes through him. That's why they shoot the three ball decently well. Drive and kick, he draws a crowd, kick it out. The rest of the story. So that's my pick. That's my shtick on that. I really hope to make it. I really do.
I'm rooting for him now too. I love in mid-major how the one guy, like the guy like you're talking about, always sticks out. You're like, okay, that guy's a little different out there.
Yeah, you could tell. It's kind of like that kid from Grand Canyon last year who has no business playing at Grand Canyon.
Tyon Grant Foster.
Yeah, he's like that's a great point. They stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I hope there's another team like Grand Canyon and I know I'm going to be making more videos. I'm probably going to have you on at least one more time when conference tournaments come up and March Madness comes up as well to talk like, hey, we're dialed in now. We're making a bracket. Let's make it happen. So I'll definitely have you back on then. But I appreciate the time today, man, and really enjoyed having you.
Yeah, well, anytime, man. I'll talk hoop, talk shop anytime. So just let me know.
All right, love that.